Hello, welcome to the Introduction to Front-End Web Development course. So basically what does this course cover? So we're going to cover HTML5, we're going to cover CSS3, we're going to cover JavaScript, jQuery, and Bootstrap. The HTML5, right, and the CSS3, we'll just be looking at basically HTML and CSS, but we're focusing more on HTML5 and HTML and CSS3. Then we look at those other aspects to JavaScript, jQuery, and then Bootstrap. So, what is front-end web development, right? So, basically, front-end web development has to do with developing the parts of a website that users can interact with, right? How I usually like to explain it is, I like to the way I like to explain things is I like to bring it down, to as basic level as possible. So when you talk about front end web development, it's basically things that you can see, right? When you go to a website, the colors, the colors of the color of the page, you know, the styling of the text and all those things. Basically, the visual things you can see are said to be front end, right? The front end of the website, the things that you can literally see, right? So that's what front end web development is all about. So front end web development is all about developing the things on basically a website that users can interact with and they can see. And what are the key elements of front end web development? You have HTML, right? So HTML is basically the backbone of any website, right? So this is how I like to explain HTML, right? So let's assume you want a wardrobe, right? A wooden wardrobe, and you 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 want a wooden wardrobe. So when you meet a carpenter and you tell the carpenter, hey, I want a wooden wardrobe, what does the carpenter do, right? He's going to pick up wood and he's going to use that wood as a foundation to actually build something, right? So basically that is what HTML is for websites. HTML is basically the basic building block of websites. So on it is what like you basically build other you basically like build the other aspects of the front end, right? So that's what HTML is all about, right? So what is CSS, right? HTML actually stands for um, hypertext markup language. So HTML stands for hypertext markup language. And then what is CSS? CSS, when it comes to developing websites, is basically just the styling, right? The colors itself, right? The fonts, the colors, right? And all those colors you see and styling of a website. That is what CSS is, right? So it stands for cascading style sheets, right? And when you have the HTML, right? So when you meet the carpenter and you say you want a wooden wardrobe, he picks up wood, right? And he cuts them and he aligns them. So by the time he's done nailing the parts together, he's going to give it he's going to give it a texture, right? He's going to spray it or something like that, right? Same thing when you're trying to build a car. You're going to have the first part, the metallic parts for the outside of the car, and then you're going to spray it. You're going to give it colors and things like that. So, but without the first metallic part, without the wooden part for wardrobe, without the metallic part for the car, the outside of the car, you can't actually spray the car. You can't exactly have colors, right? So that's what CSS is, right? Cascading style sheet. That's what it does. And why JavaScript, right? Adds interactivity and dynamic features to websites, right? So this is how I like to explain JavaScript. Let's say, imagine you, by the time the carpenter is done with the wardrobe, right? So he's done with the wooden frame, he's done giving it colors, but you can't actually open the wardrobe and close it, right? It's just there. You can't actually open it, but you can see that it has a door. So you would wonder, like, what kind of wardrobe is it? I can't open it, I can't interact with it, right? So the function, the what enables the wardrobe to be opened and closed in this case would be something like JavaScript. So when it comes to a web page, JavaScript will enable you to be able to interact with that wardrobe to open it and close it, right? So that's what JavaScript is. So on a website, JavaScript, when you go to a website and when you go to the website, you let's say for instance, you can click on a button and you see a pop up, right? So that has to do with something like JavaScript, right? It's actually enables somebody to be able to interact with the website. So these are just the basic building blocks of front-end web development when it comes to building website and web development. So what is the purpose of front-end web development? We've touched this briefly already in the previous in what I said previously. So it's just to create the visual parts of a website that people can see with and make it responsive, interactive, and I'll be explaining responsive part of a website soon. But that's what the purpose of front-end web development is about. And then you have, let's say, we have tools, right? So for this particular course, we'll be focusing on jQuery and Bootstrap, right? So basically, jQuery it's a lightweight JavaScript library that enables you to write JavaScript easier. So the way you have JavaScript, right? You can use jQuery to do the same thing JavaScript does, but it just makes it like easier. So I'm giving an example. If it would take you 10 lines of code to do something with JavaScript, with jQuery you can do it with 1 line, 2 lines of code, just to give you an idea of what it is. So it's like it's built on top of JavaScript, but it's just meant to make life easier for you, right? To make you write less code and and all that kind of thing. So what is Bootstrap? So basically, Bootstrap is a CSS framework, for building responsive websites, right? So this is how I like to explain Bootstrap, right? So Bootstrap, just like the way we have jQuery for JavaScript, I like to say Bootstrap can be called the equivalent of jQuery for CSS, right? Something like that, right? But in this case, um, Bootstrap can be called the equivalent of jQuery for JavaScript, right? Because it gives you that opportunity to make responsive websites faster than what you would do with regular CSS. So it just makes it kind of like easier for you, and you also have some nice styling components and things like that that you could easily use to build up your website, taking away that need for you to design those things from scratch. You can still write some CSS code and design from scratch, but it takes away that stress of doing that and allows you to focus more on building the core parts of the website that will make it the website useful to people, right? Takes away that time. So if it will take you 10 days to build a responsive website with CSS and some other features, it will take you lesser time with Bootstrap to do the same thing, or probably even better. Just an example, but it doesn't stop you from still using CSS, right? So what are the career opportunities in front-end web development? It's the career opportunities are wonderful, right? So you could be employed in a company. Say you could be building interactive websites and user interfaces, right? Front end for companies. You could be working as a company as an employee. You could also be freelancing, right? You could be on a contract. It can be like a contract stuff, and you could be freelancing. You could develop front end of websites and sell them. You could be freelancing on various freelancing platforms, and you could still have your own thing, right? You could develop front end of website and run your own kind of business. So it's endless. The possibilities are endless. Like you can do a whole lot by learning front end web development. It's something that is really really useful in the industry, and it's ever growing and ever expanding. So whether you are looking for an employment or you're actually looking to do your own thing, front end web development is a good way to go. So thank you.